Hey everybody, welcome back to iSPI Hacks. It's Sarah Beth, Business Incubation Program Coordinator with Innovate Springfield, and I'm back with Daniel Gambrell. He is the Associate with Illinois Ventures, and he is going to talk to you about what kind of companies venture capital firms look for. So take it away, Daniel.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Happy to be back with you. So today we're going to discuss what types of companies VCs look for. In the last video, I talked about most companies actually don't need venture funding because we're looking for very specific types of companies. And so today we're going to talk about what those types of companies are. Most VCs typically look for three main things in the companies they look for. And these aren't in any particular order. Some firms weight them more than others, but in general, it comes down to three things. The first is some unique value proposition that is scalable and defensible. VCs want to fund companies that are solving real problems. Problems that are deep and meaningful, and that that company's solution is defensible and scalable. So we don't want you to solve a problem just for maybe one city or one small segment of the market. We want to be able to scale that across many markets, geographies, those types of considerations. The second thing we want to think about is if you are solving another way to think of value proposition is, are you solving a real problem in a deep and meaningful way that other people can't replicate? And if you're doing that, are you operating in a large enough market? Because of the types of returns VCs are looking for, and we're looking for high returns because investing in startups is risky, we're looking for companies that operate in very large markets. And then the next question, of course, is what makes a large market? It's different for different VCs, mainly because of how much capital they're trying to deploy and invest. The smallest market that I typically look at is about 1 billion. If you're smaller than that, it's probably not big enough for a VC to consider. But I also have one of my former interns who started a company. He went out to Silicon Valley and was talking to an investor out there, and that investor told him unless he was operating in a $250 billion market, it just wasn't big enough for them to care about. And so it depends on the VC, but in general, we're talking billions of dollars per year in market size, and not really anything less than that. The third thing we're going to think about, and a VC will think about, if you're solving a real problem in a unique and meaningful way, if there's a very large market for solving that problem, are you the right team to execute in that market to do it? In general, if your problem is worth solving, you're probably not the only one trying to solve it. And so if I think the problem you're solving is real and you're doing it in a meaningful way, and I think you're operating in a big market, but I don't like the team, I may just try and find another team who's trying to do what you're doing. If you look back on some of the biggest startups that have grown the past decade, whether it's Airbnb or Uber, they weren't the only ones doing, whether it's ride sharing or hosting, they weren't the only ones doing it when they started. They just figured out a way to scale quicker than everyone else and to execute quicker than everyone else. So those are the types of companies we're looking for sort of generically. Now, after that, VCs have other considerations. Sometimes it's stage. Are you pre-seed, seed, growth? Maybe you have a certain revenue level. If it's super technology-based, maybe the technology is made to a certain point. But there's also certain demographics, certain funds we'll look for, whether it's female founders, minority founders, immigrant founders. There's firms that specifically seek out those types of companies. Other things VCs look for may be geography. So Illinois Ventures, while we do invest nationwide, a lot of our investments are focused right here in Illinois, in the Midwest in general. But there's some VCs who may only invest in Silicon Valley. They may only invest on the East Coast. And others stick to certain sectors, whether it's agriculture, biotech, life science, robotics, software as a service. Sometimes it's business to business or consumer. Most funds will stick to certain industries or certain stages in order to refine the deal flow that's coming to them and to be very specific on what the types of companies they're looking for. But hopefully that explains to you the types of companies VCs look for. And if you have any more questions, I'm happy to get in touch with you and explain more. Thanks, Sarah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate everyone for tuning in. We're going to decode this whole VC thing. So keep following along with us for the next iSPI hack vid. See you guys.